Hello guys, welcome to United's Glory. A very nervous affair against Leicester City at the King Power Stadium, but we managed to pull it off with a 2-0 win in a very contained performance, a very safe performance, literally throttling Leicester City to make sure we got over that line and into the Champions League. And I'm not going to complain too much about that. Obviously, we all want to see Manchester United play attacking football. But ultimately, we did a job today, and that is what we needed to do because now we had the platform to build on. We needed that Champions League spot to get the right kind of players in and push further up the league table for those second and first positions on the way back to the title. Now, it wasn't all plain sailing. That Leicester did have a few chances, but none of them were really clear-cut. In fact, the closest they came was from a Vardy header that hit the post, but it was always on the outside of the post. Regardless, Manchester United didn't particularly look potent themselves, but like I said, it was all about getting a job done today, and we got it done. But a lot of our players look very tired with the UEFA Cup coming up now, and so many of our players looking exhausted, and the quick turnaround from this season to the next, you have to wonder, is it worth playing some of these players or overplaying these players in the UEFA Cup, even though there's a trophy on the line? Let me know down in the comment section if you think we should be going all out for that Europa League. I'm all for silverware, but it is the Mickey Mouse European Cup, and we want to give ourselves a better chance in the next year's Premier European Cup. Of course, guys, I keep saying we've got into the top four, but ultimately we came third. This year, Manchester United have ended up being the third best team in the Premier League. It hasn't always felt like that. It's really been down to our late run of form in the second half of the season. But ultimately, you've got to give Ollie another season now if you were Ollie out, because he's ultimately achieved his objective. We've seen other marks and improvement, but there is still a lot that he needs to improve, but I'll do that in another video, especially his coaching, which once again was on display today, not looking great at times. But today we were patient, and eventually Martial got through on goal and got brought down for a rightful penalty. Of course, the agenda from rival fans will be calling us Penalty United or VAR United, but ultimately, if you don't want us to keep getting penalties, stop bringing our players down in the box. Now that VAR is a thing, it's objectively more a penalty than it ever has been before. It's no longer subjected to the referee's opinion. So stop bringing our players down. In fact, I can go back to the Jose Mourinho season where we came second, and even the season after. There was a lot of times where our players were being brought down in the box and nothing was being done about it. But now VAR is there for Manchester United, I guess you could say. But obviously, like I said, it's objective now. But ultimately, the game was pretty boring and there wasn't really that much to report on. So I'll get straight onto player ratings. David De Gea didn't really get tested and did what he had to do, really. Still worries me on set pieces. There was a set piece that Leicester had from about 40 yards out, and I personally thought he should have come out and collected it. A stronger goalkeeper would have done, but De Gea backtracked to his line. If one of the Leicester players had have got their head on it, he would have been in deep water. Of course, he has his reflexes to get him out of situations like that sometimes, but nowadays you're not so sure. But De Gea didn't particularly do anything wrong today, so it's a 6 out of 10. Wasn't really tested. Wan-Bissaka, his tackling was back today. He was winning a lot of good tackles, but when he gets on the ball, his vision really is impaired when he's closed down. He doesn't make the right passes, and he doesn't beat men until he at least gets to the 18-yard box. I'd like to see him beat men a little further down the field, maybe in the centre of the pitch, because he can beat a man. He's quick, even has a trick. I do feel he'll be helped out by somebody like a Jadon Sancho who stays wide. If we get somebody like Jadon Sancho next year, now in the Champions League, you've got to say that's looking far more likely. But it's a 6 for Wan-Bissaka for me today because he was defensively good, but his passing was shoddy. He is one of our players that really struggles when we are being pressed. He's not the only one, but he is one of them. And he has age on his side, so it's something that he really needs to work on. Brandon Williams at left back, I was worried when I saw him playing today, but he had a pretty solid game, kept Albrighton quiet, got on the ball, took his man on. But where he really struggles is he isn't a natural left footer. So when he tries to go down the outside, he gets squeezed out. And ultimately, it just ends up with him coming backwards. So he tends to have to try and come on the inside first, which is a bit predictable. So that is a weakness in Williams' game. But ultimately, I thought he was quite solid today. So 7 out of 10. You know, he had a bad game against Chelsea and wasn't that much better against West Ham. But you've got to expect this from players of that age. He is young. This is his first season. He's got to learn. Is he the left back for the future? I don't know. He's still behind Luke Shaw in the pecking order. But does he have the ability to surpass Luke Shaw? not sure. I believe he has earned another season to try and keep improving. On to Harry Maguire, a silly yellow card in the first half, in the first 10 minutes, in fact, which had me worried, especially against the pace of Iheanacho and Jamie Vardy. But it was otherwise a solid performance, was dominant in the air, and ultimately kept Vardy in his pocket, you have to say, which is not an easy job to do. Vardy is a very tricky customer. I won't mind Man United getting Jamie Vardy and having him on the bench. I know he might not want that, but maybe as his age is getting on, he might take a chance like that. I think bringing someone like Vardy on for the last 20 minutes would be exceptionally dangerous. Anyway, 7 out of 10 for Harry Maguire, just a solid performance. Lindelof had a very good performance, some great clearances, great interceptions, kept his man in check. Probably the man of the match for me, solid and sturdy. He goes unnoticed, but I've harked back to Cannavaro, Fabio Cannavaro, one of my favourite centre-backs of all time. You barely heard his name in a game. Now, I know bringing Fabio Cannavaro up here is a bit ridiculous because Lindelof is not that level, but you don't hear about the best centre-backs because they just don't do anything wrong. They give the ball as soon as they get it. And that's what Lindelof has done quite a lot this year. Obviously, he struggles in terms of physicality because he doesn't have that physicality with him or the pace to complement Maguire. But he is a good centre-back, and he was man of the match for me today. On to Nemanja Matic, a far better game than what he had against West Ham. However, you do still see the weaknesses in this game. When Leicester pressed, he lost the ball a couple of times. One of those times was very similar to how Pogba lost the ball against Southampton, which resulted in Southampton scoring. Matic got away with it, but he made a really good pass to Martial in the second half, which you could have said Martial should have done better with. And his passing is good. When Matic has time on the ball, he's a good player, and he's certainly useful in certain types of games. What worries me about Matic is Solskjaer doesn't feel comfortable with Matic being at the base of midfield to allow Pogba further up the field. That worries me because we need Pogba further up the field. And against teams like Man City and Liverpool, any teams that base their style on pressing really will get at Matic because he isn't a quick thinker. That's the only way I can put it. A gifted player, but not a quick thinker. But much better from Matic today. A few stray passes in the first half and got away with it. So a 6 out of 10 for Matic. Paul Pogba, I thought he looked our best player in the first half. He was very neat and tidy on the ball. Started to give it away a little bit in the second half, but it was a good performance. You can tell he has class. He's very efficient with the ball, very industrial-like. A good performance from Pogba, 7 out of 10. He won the midfield battle for us, I think, today. On to Bruno Fernandes, his worst game in the Man United shirt, but over the last 3 or 4 games, his performances have really been declining. You know, he gives the ball away a lot anyway, but ultimately, there's got to be positions where he's got to know that he shouldn't give the ball away. I have noticed when he does drop further back, he doesn't give the ball away, so he knows how to keep hold of the ball, and I do believe he is being asked to just be creative and not worry about the repercussions of losing the ball, which is a good thing to have, but there's got to be moments where he has to hold the ball up for us. I don't know if this is just completely down to fatigue. Gary Neville did mention he played against Norwich in the FA Cup, which was a bit silly, especially considering we went and rested loads of players in the FA Cup semi-final. And he may be suffering from overplaying, but he was really poor today. But he kept his nerve for the penalty. So it's a 5 out of 10 for me. It would have been worse. I can't believe I'm giving a goal scorer a 5 out of 10. But it would have been worse if he didn't score that penalty because he was really poor today, lucky not to be taken off earlier. I was asking for Fred to come on for Bruno earlier because I'm surprised Bruno managed to finish the run-up for the penalty the way he was moving at one stage. Seriously, if he'd have collapsed during the run-up for that penalty, it wouldn't surprise me. Anyway, he scored the penalty, sent the goalkeeper the wrong way. You know, Bruno's been the man for us, so you can sort of forgive his poor performances of late, but he needs to pick it back up after a bit of a refreshing break. Is it really worth playing in the Europa League, like I asked you earlier? On to Mason Greenwood, some great runs. Saw some good passing from him today. Struggles to get into the game when things are tight, but that's something he's got to learn as he gets older. I thought we shouldn't have taken him off today. I thought he was far better than Rashford, who remained on the pitch when Jesse Lingard came on, but nothing special from Greenwood today, so a 6 out of 10. On to Marcus Rashford. He was horrendous. A really good ball for Mason Greenwood in the first half, but we seem to get this thing about Rashford where he seems to think he's a playmaker and he drops deep. I want to see Rashford playing on the line and breaking that line and stretching the opposition defence. We don't need Rashford as a playmaker. Sure, he can pull out a good pass every now and again, but when you've got Bruno and Pogba pulling the strings, why do you need Rashford pulling the strings? Get further forward, Give Bruno and Pogba more options. Stop coming back. You're not a playmaker. Go and get goals. That lofted pass from deep is a good skill that Marcus Rashford possesses. It's a good weapon, but I'm starting to really starting to overuse it, and teams will start latching onto it. Use it every now and again. Be spontaneous about it. He was trying it far too much today, and that's when teams start to predict what you're going to do. Get further up the field, stretch the opponent's defence. Maybe he was playing a bit deeper today to protect Brandon Williams, I don't know, but it was a really poor performance today. In fact, I think he should have scored at one point as well. A 3 out of 10 for Marcus Rashford today, not good enough. Lucky to stay on the pitch. On to Anthony Martial. I thought he was isolated today because Marcus Rashford was playing nowhere near him, and he ultimately got the penalty in the end, which was definitely a penalty. I know Johnny Evans did get a touch on the ball, but didn't really take the ball out of Martial's path. So if he wasn't brought down by the challenge from Evans, then ultimately he would have still got on the end of the ball anyway and probably scored. And obviously Wes Morgan thought it was WWE, so he came in and just clattered Anthony Martial. But they both brought him down regardless of whether Evans got the ball first. It was a penalty. Like I said earlier, you don't want to keep Manchester United getting penalties. Stop bringing us down in the box. A 7 out of 10, a good performance from Martial today. He's really impressed me as a striker recently. Onto the substitutes. Lingard, I was surprised he came on. In fact, I was saying, why is he coming on? But ultimately, he got a goal in the end. I mean, it was a gift, but clearly it's an emotional moment for Lingard. So I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10 for sympathy. Personally, I still think he should be leaving in this summer. McTominay came on 5 minutes, didn't really have a chance to do too much, 6 out of 10. And obviously, Fosu Mensah came on really late, so I'm not really going to give him a rating. Anyway, we got the job done. We're in the Champions League next year. We'll be playing against the elite clubs, possibly Real Madrid, possibly Barcelona. We've got a lot of improving to do. We need to get Jadon Sancho in. We need to get Jack Grealish in, who, particularly Jack Grealish, he might not necessarily be a starter for us, but we need steel. Steel is something we definitely need in our team right now. He is a fighter and a leader, and we really need a leader further up the pitch. With the Premier League returning on September the 12th, that gives us very little turnover time from this season to the next. We've got the Europa League still. I'd play it by ear. I'd see what teams we get. If we get an Inter or a Roma or a Sevilla, then maybe you put your first string out and see how it goes. But there's no pressure on us now. Teams recently against us have been playing with no pressure, and you can see how much their performances improve. We can play with no pressure in the Europa League. Only play players like Bruno if we're playing against a Roma or an Inter. I don't think they need to play otherwise. It's not that important of a competition. I do want to win silverware, but if Ollie's going to throw away the FA Cup opportunity like he did last week, I can't see why he's going to hold this trophy in any higher regard. Though winning it does getting us into the Charity Shield of the European competitions next year. So guys, we did it. Top 3. Ollie's done his job. All the oligarchs are probably really eating their words right now. That's not to say Ollie's doing a perfect job. I still need to see some massive improvement in terms of his coaching this summer. He has very little turnover time to pull that off, but ultimately, we'll go again next year. I'll do a Premier League season review in just a few days, so make sure you subscribe to the channel to be notified when I release that video. And I don't think I remember anybody saying we were going to get top 4, considering we only got Harry Maguire, Wan-Bissaka and Daniel James in the summer. So you've got to say Ollie's done a good job, actually. So smash a like on the video if you think Ollie's actually pulled off a good job. Until next time, chat to you soon.